Hey Max, is Canada a French country?
No, it's known as a Dominion of Canada, and it has a parliamentary system that is modeled after the British system.
Really? Well, there must be a majority of French-speaking people living in Canada then, right?
No, not at all. Relatively speaking, the largest number of French-speaking people in Canada live in either the province of New Brunswick or the province of Quebec. If you count the number of French and don't include those two provinces, the numbers are rather tiny, perhaps maybe 4 to 8% scattered around through the rest of Canada.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Most, some 17.5% of the French-speaking population of Canada live in those two provinces.
Wow, really?
Yeah, we have New Brunswick, Canada's only officially bilingual province, and then we have the province of Quebec, which is officially and legally labeled itself unilingual French only. New Brunswick has a population ratio of approximately 30% French-speaking to approximately 70% English-speaking, while the province of Quebec is more like 80 to 90% French-speaking to perhaps maybe 5 to 10% English-speaking. And then we have the rest of Canada, as I said, which has relatively few French speakers in pockets scattered around all over. But again, like I said, the numbers are tiny.
Well then, why is it that when people call into Canada from other countries, they get those recordings in French first?
Il s'agit d'un appel interurbain. C'était un message enregistré. This is a long-distance call. Please dial 1 or 0 as well as the area code for the number you are calling. This is a recording.
Also, why do the federal government websites show the French in the dominant position?
Bienvenue au CRTC. Welcome to the CRTC.
Things like this give people the impression that Canada is a French-dominant country, yet you're saying there are only a few French-speaking people in the pockets outside the province of Quebec and New Brunswick.
Yes, well, well, you see...
No, I don't see. Go ahead and tell me, how can this be? Explain how it is that the French language is so dominant.
Okay, well, after the British won the battle on the Plains of Abraham in 1759, France ceded all of Canada to the British. The few French speakers who remained were not sent back to France. They were allowed to stay in the British land for various reasons. They were expected to assimilate and told that they must pledge allegiance to the King of England, but they refused, and ultimately the whole idea was forgotten. It was then decided, in light of the strategic geographic positions they were located in, that the French would be allowed to stay. They were also told that they could keep their language, their culture, and their religion at that point as well.
That was a decent thing to do.
Yes, well, both the British and the tiny French pockets that remained after their defeat had a lot to gain from such an arrangement, so it worked out good for everyone. There was a few subsequent attempts after that by the British over the years, using anti-French style language laws and so on in order to try to force the French to assimilate, but those laws were deemed to be terrible laws and discriminated against the small French minority, so they were abandoned, and the British completely stopped any further attempts to assimilate the French after that.
If we don't do nothing, then we will be in bilingual Montreal, and I don't think it is a good thing for nobody in Quebec.
However, the combination of those early attempts at assimilation, along with the resentment felt by the French for having lost control of Canada because of a brilliant but somewhat sneaky plan by General Wolfe, left the French somewhat spiteful and resentful. This is not to mention the added insult they must have felt for having been left behind by their French king, who signed the declaration which handed over Canada to the British. Yes, the French were bitter for many years, as none of these events ever sat well with those who remained in Canada. They carried a grudge, and still do to this day, the Je me souviens chip on their shoulder from having lost what they believed to be their country in a battle they felt they should not have lost.
Are they still, in effect, fighting a 250-year-old war?
After that, the British and the Scots went on to build up the rest of Canada.
This Lachine Canal was a heroic achievement, according to historian Sam Allison.
The construction of this canal was the most ambitious and most expensive project in Canada up to that time. Built by pick and shovel, it was nonetheless a great engineering feat. James Richardson, who promoted the project, was a Scot. Burnett, the chief engineer, was English. David, who promoted the project politically, was Jewish. The canal workers came from the British Isles. So the canal builders reflected the English-speaking Montreal of that time.
They built bridges, canals, and so on and so forth for trade with the world, and basically explored all the rest of Canada, including the far western reaches, while the few remaining French settlers just basically stayed in their fields. We now jump ahead a few hundred years, and we see that the French speakers have settled in and built up their numbers quite extensively over time.
Just down the street from the Van Horn House, the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, founded by Anglos and full of paintings donated by Anglos. But today it is no longer allowed to show the world its original English name. In this way, Montreal's history is being rewritten. Dorchester Boulevard, named after an early British governor who persuaded London to facilitate the survival of the French language in conquered Quebec. The existence of a French Canada today owes much to Lord Dorchester's efforts. And in 1987, Montreal acknowledged this by changing the name of his street to Boulevard René Lévesque.